So we can finally accurately say that the walls this time really are closing in on Donald Trump. It's been written a million times. Results coming in this morning from Pennsylvania that put Joe Biden in the lead. He also has an edge in a number of other states that would give him more than 270 electoral college votes. As we are taping this, the AP has not officially called the race, although other outlets have. So how's President Trump going to handle that news? What is he going to do? Is he going to concede? Is he going to protest? What's he going to tweet? To dig into that, we've got the perfect pair of commentators.
Yes, that's right. We've got Roger Fisk. He's a Democratic strategist and Obama administration alumni. And Tom Rogan. He's a commentary writer for the Washington Examiner. It's good to see you guys. How are you?
See you.
Fantastic.
Good. How are you?
So as Crystal said, we're going off some breaking news this morning that Joe Biden's taking the lead in Pennsylvania. One organization, Decision Disc, actually called the entire presidential election. The Associated Press, who we go by, has not yet done any of that. But it does spark a conversation, which is what exactly is going to happen throughout all of this. Tom, let's start with you. The Trump campaign putting out a defiant statement saying that the election is not over whatsoever. They point to Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Arizona and say that they will have a recount in Georgia, that in Pennsylvania they expect some court challenges over quote-unquote irregularities. In Nevada, there are thousands of ballots that they believe that they're going to be challenging in court. And in Arizona, they think they're going to win outright. Gives you a bit of a preview that this is not going to be a defiant thing. In general, what do you expect to happen over the next couple of days if they do, in fact, the Associated Press and other organizations call the state of Pennsylvania and this race for Joe Biden?
Yeah, I think Pennsylvania is the key. Georgia is so close that there feasibly and rationally could be a recount there. But I think the operative point is that the Trump campaign's idea that they'd be able to resolve this through the courts, I just don't see how it's going to work. Number one, the courts do not want to take on a matter that is so inherently political. Certainly the Supreme Court will be predisposed to that attitude. And secondly, I just don't see the kind of data points, the evidence, if you will, that would be required to get a court to really structurally, overturn a decision. I think Pennsylvania becomes the key because the margin will look to be bigger there. We would anticipate, and ultimately that by himself. The problem for President Trump, I think, is that he needs things to go his way, either legally or vote-wise or recount-wise in all those places. Mm-hmm. That becomes, or at least three of them, and that becomes a complicating factor. So I think the Joe Biden top line is looking pretty good to be the next president.
Yeah, I mean, Roger, I think if there was one state, if it really was like just Pennsylvania, and if you take that one off the board, then Donald Trump ends up winning, and if you give it to Joe Biden, then he ends up winning, I would feel a lot more nervous about this situation because you can make all kinds of cases, you can gin up all kinds of false allegations, fraud here, fraud there. If it all comes down to one state, you really are facing this 2000 Florida nightmare all over again.
Right.
To me, the thing that makes this more definitive and decisive is that President Trump has to fight on four different fronts: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. None of them right now look like they are going his way, although Arizona, I would say, is the one that is most in question. So how do you think that he handles that? Some of the more elaborate, frankly, conspiracy theories that Dems have spun in recent weeks about what he might do leading up to Election Day have not come to fruition thus far. He gave a kind of sad sack press conference yesterday where he threw out all kinds of wild, ridiculous claims. But, ultimately, I don't think that amounted to a whole lot. So what do you think he does next? And how do you think that his base of fans will react to what he does next?
Well, it will just be more incoherence, right? Because, he's trying to make different arguments in different states, and he's trying to then, at the same time, trumpet the gains for the Republicans in the House that are, by definition, are those gains are the product of the very same ballots that he says are potentially illegitimate. I've said all along, and I try to do this analytically, I don't think there's a big part of him that really understands or even believes in democracy. I think his impulses, he says the quiet parts out loud. He has a deep appetite to jail journalists. He has a deep appetite to jail his political opponents. So I don't think there's a big part of him that really gets the idea that the people are in the driver's seat. To come at your question then from a tactical angle, and then also to walk down the road a little bit on Pennsylvania, since you singled that out, there is one potential remedy, which is then the Pennsylvania state legislature, which is Republican, could convene itself and obviate the electors elected by the voters of Pennsylvania. They could then appoint 20 of their own. Then the governor, as I understand it, could veto that, and he could appoint 20 of his own. So then you could fast forward to a day when the Electoral College gathers in Harrisburg and you have two different sets of 20 electors show up.
Ugh,
I'm hoping, and I'll finish here, I'm hoping that there'll be some level of restraint, and we've seen glimmers of it from some Republican leaders, but there needs to be a full-throated repudiation of this. And there's still a chance where some of these folks who have been, applauding, as he said, 2 + 2 is 5 for the last 5 years, can actually stand up and raise their hand and say, no, sir, 2 + 2 is 4. That automatically means they're a member of the deep state and everything else. But, the truth ostensibly still matters. But I think he's going to continue to just go circumstantially based on what's best for him. He'll make one argument in Arizona and a completely different one in Pennsylvania. And that kind of contradiction is why he's able to portray himself as both the victim and the champion in virtually every situation.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see similar scenarios playing out all across. It's going to be an interesting couple of days, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Great to see you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the weekend.
You too.
Next on Rising, Andrew Yang is making some salient points about Trump voters, and we're going to discuss and give a wrap of the week when Rising continues.